guys don't know, I get to do this like emceeing gigs. It seems like, a couple times a month. And one thing you start to learn when you're doing this is you start to learn about the speakers, and you start to learn their personalities, and you start to learn their tendencies. And some speakers, you can tell, they want to delay getting on the stage as much as they possibly can. Like, oh, let's give them a break. Oh, let's wait for people to come back. Oh, I see that's the one guy smoking like 3 buildings away. Let's wait for him, And then you have other people that are like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. We can all tell our next speaker what he wants to do. He just wants to go, right? So without further ado, and his name is so cool, I get to announce it, right? So awesome. So let's all hear it for Rocky Romanella.
There you go. And it's always wonderful to be introduced by another Jersey guy. So that's a good thing too. So listen, first thing I want to do is I would like Dan to start off. I went out and got you a $30 gift card for Starbucks as a thank you for attending and thank you for listening. And so just throw your business card in there at the end. We'll draw out for a $30 gift card. I figured $30 should be able to cover 1 latte for you at Starbucks here with the Vegas prices. So let's talk a little bit about this concept of balanced leadership. And my talk, if you think about all the talks that you've heard in the last day and a half, outstanding. I've learned a lot. I've sat through them because I learn a lot as a speaker listening to the other speakers. But if there's a change that has to happen, it has to start with who? It starts with that person in the mirror. So let's take a step back and forget we're car dealers. We're not car dealers for the next half hour. We're business people who happen to sell cars. Think about that for a second. You are a business person who happens to sell cars. So then what's your skill set? Not selling cars. Your skill set is the business acumen you bring to the table. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I want to talk to you about this approach, which I call balanced leadership. But before we do that, just a little bit about Rocky Romanella, just quickly. 36-year UPSer, starting unloading trailers in Edison, New Jersey. I'll give you the date. You can figure out the age. June 15th, 1976. My dad said, one of my kids is going to college. It's you. You're the oldest. We got no money. So UPS provided me with the tuition from within process as well as a part-time job. Worked my way up. I was an unloader loader. I was a driver in Plainfield, New Jersey, and worked my way up through the organization. What's important about my background isn't that. I was very lucky to do many different things inside of UPS. For example, we purchased mailboxes, et cetera, rebranded to the UPS store, and that was a direct report to me. So in that business unit, we had to sell franchises, and then we had to drive same-store sales. Inside UPS, we were selling UPS shipping. Later on, we purchased 24 companies and combined them into what's today UPS Supply Chain Solutions. That was an integration of many cultures, small companies, big companies. We had to sell UPS Supply Chain. So sales is an important part of everything you do. Now the question is, thank you very much, sir. So the question is sales unique to automobile industry? Or is there a process for sales, whether you're working for ADP, one of the world's largest payroll companies? Is there a sales process when it comes to automotive? I want to talk about the sales process. Let's talk about process. Process will lead to results. And then when I retired from UPS, I had my 36 years, I was 55, I was recruited to be a CEO of a telecom company, and then we sold tower building, upgrades of towers. Matt had asked me if I could bring my book. My book's in the back. I generally don't do it from that perspective. But when I wrote the book, I talked a lot about process and wrote the book in such a way. We won't have the time to go into a lot of the different topics today. So what I wanted to do is just let you know that the book's designed to be a how-to book. It's a fun book. You'll enjoy it. A lot of stories in the book. But there's a how-to part in every chapter. So you can take each chapter and say, well, I want to talk about communication. I want to talk about balanced leadership. There's a chapter and lesson in there, and therefore you can take it. And if you think about the monthly meeting or the weekly meetings you start to have with your sales associates, or you individually have as a salesperson saying, you know what? Someone's going to be the best at this. Someone's going to be the best salesperson in the automotive industry. Why not me? Someone's going to be the best at it. Do they work harder than you? Are they smarter than you? Of course not. It's just the fact that you have to believe someone's going to be the best. Someone's going to have the best dealership that does all the things that Katie talked about, recognizes the female consumer. We just talked about it on our last speaker. Someone's going to do that. Why not you? So someone's going to be the best. Why not you? And it's the approach that you take. And in the book, there's these different topics. And so I just wanted to give you just a quick highlight on that. So let's talk about significant events. So now yesterday, Frank talked about 2008. There was a significant event in the industry. Well, all industries have significant events. You have significant events in your personal life and your professional life that changes. Let me give you two significant events in Rocky Romanella's life. The first one is we moved around the country with UPS. I moved 8 times. So one night I'm home. We have 4 kids. The youngest guy, Andrew's, struggling with math. So Debbie looks at me and says, come on, Dad, you may want to get involved here a little bit. I'm like, I could do this. I do ROIC. Come on, I can help him out. So he's struggling with greater than and less than. So I said to Andrew, he was a hockey player. I said, Andrew, we got 4 pucks here, 3 pucks here. What does that mean? He said, oh, we got 7 hockey pucks. I said, this isn't working out too good. So then I take out a piece of paper and I draw these 2 signs for Andrew. I said, Andrew, what does this mean? He says, fast forward and reverse. Now think about that. You know what my significant event was? The generation I was going to lead was better at technology than I was ever going to be. I had to learn technology. Now, as Frank knows and I know, we're Jersey guys. Everybody in Jersey's got a guy. We got a guy. I don't need to know technology. I got a guy. When the computer didn't work, hey, get me the guy. When I was a UPS driver, I was on paper. I didn't want the technology of the handheld. Well, that night I realized if I was going to lead the next generation, then I need to understand technology. If you're going to sell to the next generation, if you're going to sell, yesterday Matt talked about it, simple things like the technology. How do I connect my Bluetooth? So technology is a way of life. It's not going to go away. People's attention spans are short because of it. People text. So technology is an important part of it. Second significant event. A friend of mine's dad passes away. And he's lived a great life, and he's going through his sport coat. And as he's going through the sport coat, he goes in a pocket and he sees a ticket for a pair of shoes that his dad had brought to the shoemaker on Main Street in Woodbridge 45 years ago. So he thinks to himself, I wonder if the shoes are still there because the shoemaker's still there. He's still alive on Main Street in Woodbridge. So he gets up enough confidence, walks into the shoemaker and hands the shoemaker the ticket. Shoemaker walks in the back, comes back and says, hey, they'll be done a week from Thursday. Think about that. Procrastination is going to kill you. Someone's going to get to the spot. Someone's going to be the best at it. Someone's going to change their approach to dealership. Someone's going to change their approach to how to interact with the female consumer. Someone's going to do it. You just don't have a long time to do it. So those are my significant events. Technology is never going to go away. I need to understand it. We need to be able to manage it, right? These are business concepts. These have nothing to do with automotive, but you can relate them to automotive because you're no longer an automotive salesperson. You're what? A business person. You're a business person who sells cars. So let's talk a little bit about, let's visualize, where do you want to go in your industry? Well, wouldn't it be great to have an auto industry that was growing, that you did not have that stigma, that you didn't feel like when you said to someone, oh, I'm an auto salesperson, you kind of looked at your feet like you were back in Catholic school. Now I'm kind of like, I sell cars. Well, what are the things that we need to change that stigma? Well, the first is you got to recruit and attract top talent. You're never going to recruit and attract top talent if you're apologizing for what you do. Think about that. So how do you recruit and attract top talent from an ADP? World-class organization, has some of the best sales training you're going to find, right? Why shouldn't they be selling your cars? Why couldn't they be excellent salespeople? So you have to recruit and retain top talent, and it starts with you not apologizing for what you do, right? Small businesses happens all the time. I just did a conference, and the topic was, how do we recruit against, it was in the logistics side, but how do we recruit against Amazon, Apple, and Google? Well, it starts with the small business owners not saying, hey, excuse me, by the way, we're just a small business. We're just, I'm sorry, but we're just a small business. Well, don't ever apologize for that. That's your strength. Your strength is you are a small business. You think Jeff Bezos is walking around Amazon warehouses saying hello to people? You could never be undercover boss as a small business owner. He can. You want to be Cheers. Everybody knows your name. So if you're the local dealer, you want to be Cheers. Everybody knows your name. You don't want to be undercover boss. So first, it starts with recruiting and retaining top talent. The second is you want to embrace and leverage technology, whether it's your understanding of it, whether it's your customer's understanding how it works inside your vehicle, but you need to embrace it. It's a way of life. It's the way it is. And then finally, you want to move from being the approved vendor in the neighborhood. Now, no matter what business you're in, whether you're UPS, whether you're General Motors, pick an industry, you do not want to be the approved vendor. You want to be the trusted advisor. Nothing is better, and I agree with everything Katie said, but nothing would be better than someone walking into you saying, I just need to buy a car, I don't know which is the right one. You're a trusted advisor then. When a company, we used to always talk about when a company's going to build and design a new product, we want them to come to us upstream so that we can design the supply chain for them. Once they've done all that work, now we're a commodity. Now it's down to price. Okay, FedEx is 99% on time. You're 99% on time. It's now down to price. Once you're in the price game, it's a race to the bottom. It's the problem with quantity. I was there today. We won Amazon. Good news is UPS won Amazon. You know what the bad news was? Won Amazon. It's a race to the bottom. Was there today, I met with JCPenney in Plano, Texas. CEO says to me, hey, by the way, 252 days last year, we had free shipping. Nah, nothing's free, man. Someone's picking it up and delivering it in a little brown truck. So price is always a race to the bottom. You have to upstream with value. I think you talked a lot about that, but now forget about the dealership for a second. Think about it from a business perspective. If you and I were getting into business today, for the first time, how would we design our dealership? How would we design our go-to-market strategy? Well, what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about this concept of balance. I think the mistake that's made in business, no matter what business you're in, is people are out of balance. It's student body left, student body right. It never works. Student body left, student body right is dangerous for your people, and it's just chaos for your customers. Let me give you how it's dangerous for your people. There's three types of people. There's the 20% of the people who are the early adopters. So think about a dealership with 10 account executives or 10 sales representatives or 10 sales. You know what? How about 10 sales professionals? Okay? Sales professionals. Well, 2 of the 10 are going to be what? Early adopters. You come in with a new idea, they're going. Yes or no, sir, 3 bags full. Got it. Then there's 2 people that are what? I don't care what you tell me, I'm not doing nothing. Right? It's no different on a soccer field. 2 people buy all the juice boxes. 2 people look at their feet because I ain't buying any juice boxes. Then it's the people in the middle. Are they going to be early adopters or are they going to be the people who don't buy the juice boxes? Well, in business, they wait you out. That's the difference. You got a new idea because every day you come up with a new one. So balance is so important. For me, this concept comes down to 3 key constituents. Today, we only have time to talk about one, but there's 3 key constituents that I think that always have to be represented in every decision you make. And let's talk a little bit about that. The first one is the customer. And you hear people talk about it all the time, think like a customer. Well, we'll talk a little bit about maybe what that means, but the first is your customers, your second is your people, and the third is the share owners and the people who you represent as you're running this business. So I always say you want to think like a customer, feel like a valued individual, and act like an owner in everything you do. Now think about our last conversation, right? You work for a bad dealership. Do you feel valued? Do people look at you as part of the problem or part of the solution? remember, every individual in your care, I don't say people work for you, I don't say people work for me, they're people in your care. So everyone in your care represents your brand. So the degree to which you get everybody to act and feel the way you want that dealership to look, that's your brand. Right? So when we would move around and Debbie would, oh yeah, Debbie was great, I love her, but we got to go meet new people all the time. So we would go, right, to some party and I'd say, Deb, why are we meeting these people? Because we're going to move again, then we're going to be sad. So let's meet nobody. You know, Rocky Romanella didn't win that, as Katie said, I didn't win that story at all because I'm 91% of the decisions she is making. So we'd go to the dinner and people would say, hey, who do you work for? How'd you move so much? And I said, I work for UPS. Then the next thing happens that was the best part of my job. Somebody would say to me, hey, you work for UPS. Hey, do you know my driver? That is the best part of working for UPS because that means the driver, the closest to our customer, is executing the brand on behalf of UPS. And UPS, it's not Rocky Romanella or Dave Avenue or a senior leadership person. It's the person, God bless you, sir. It's the person at the front line who's interacting with the customer. So now the question for you is, what's happening at the front line? It's what people are doing when no one's watching that counts. So let's talk about this thinking like a customer. Now, we don't have the time to talk about feeling like a valued individual. And then in every decision you make, you want to act like an owner. If this was your candy store, would you do that? So let's talk about the customer for a second. There's many different types of customers. You interact with many of them. You have contractors, internal business customers. Think about the internal business customers that you deal with, right? It's you as the sales professional working with the service department, working with the finance department. Those are your internal customers. It's how you interact with them on behalf of your external customer. So I want to take you through a process that I've used as we move to this concept of being a trusted advisor. So I have a series of questions that I ask every time I go through, whether it's winning a new customer, whether it's solutioning a supply chain solution on behalf of them, whether it's thinking about, am I going to do an acquisition or not? Is it the right? This works for every process you're in when it comes to a customer. So the first question I always ask, and I get a lot of laughs, and I've asked it at some of the highest levels inside organizations, is who's the customer? Now, everybody always smiles and laughs. But if you think about Katie's example, if you asked that question, you would find out that Katie was the customer, not her husband. So who's the customer? Let me give you two quick examples. First one is solutioning a very large supply chain for a healthcare company. Sitting in the highest levels you can be. I won't give you the name of the company. And so, of course, Rocky Romanella asked this question. He always asks, okay, well, who's the customer we're solutioning for? So a third of the people in the audience, or a third of the people at the meeting said, it's CVS, Walgreens, it's the distribution channel. A third of the people said, no, it's the docs. And then a third of the people said who? It's the patient. Well, there's a big difference if you're solutioning for the distribution network, for the doc, or for the patient. If this is truly a solution for a patient, well then 99% on time may be a good solution for CVS and Walgreens. But if it's for a patient, you don't want to be the one patient didn't get their medication that day. So now your metrics change, your approach change, your solution change. Another story, sitting in a boardroom, someone says, hey, we came up with an idea for a breakfast sandwich. Okay, well, who's the customer? Yeah. No, who's the customer? Third of the people say, well, we make a lot of money on vendors. Vendors are our customers. Now, remember, I worked in the franchising world. UPS is 100% franchisee owned. So we would have these conversations all the time. Who's the customer? Is it the franchisees? Is it the vendors? Or is it the person walking in off the street that's buying the sandwich? So if you think about the conversations that you've heard yesterday and today, right, it all centers around answering this question, who is the customer? So like I said, go back to Katie's example when she walked in with her 3 beautiful kids. At that moment, what the sales professional needed to be asking himself is, well, who's the customer? She was the customer. Missed it completely. So that's the first question. And it's in all businesses. I gave you examples outside. So what you're living, there's other people living the same thing. So don't feel so bad about the fact that, you know, you're in a business and you're terrible. No, we just got to fix the way we go to business. But it's a process and it's the way we look at ourselves. How about the second one? What are you solving for? Right? What were we solving for? In the healthcare example, end to consumer. First time we were going end to consumer. Before that, you always bought all your drugs from CVS, Walgreens. Now it's going to end to consumer. How many people get your cholesterol medicine in the mail now? So think about that. Years ago, nobody said that would ever happen. Today, can you watch TV and not see some advertisement for some medication? And by the way, you walk into your doctor and you say, what? I can't sleep at night. I'm seeing Abraham Lincoln and that squirrel. I need that drug. Because they tell you what? Go ask your doctor if this is what's good for me. So they move you there, the drug companies, and now it's end to consumer. So it's changed. You're solving for a different equation. What were you solving for with Katie's example? Well, she wanted a new car. She wanted one, I'm sure, that was efficient. But you have to understand, what are you solving for? It's not just to buy a car, because if you solve what keeps her up awake at night, you're gonna, no matter what business you're in, if you solve what keeps the customer up awake at night, you're gonna win the business. By the way, just remember this. When your problems, which you saw this morning, always remember this. When your problems become the customer's problems, they do what? They leave. When your problems become the customer's problems, they just leave. You know why? They got enough of their own. She got enough of her own problems. You don't need yours, right? I don't need your problem. I got my own. So what are you solving for on this example of that? So you have to understand, what won't you compromise? What are the things that as a dealer you won't compromise? You have to understand that, right? Is it customer service? On the service side, is it safety? What are the things that you won't compromise? And then everyone in your care, everyone in your organization, right? So when we started building cell towers and then we started to do other things, and customers would ask us to win more business and do other things, we'd go through this process. And when we got to this question, what won't we compromise? For us, it was always safety. If we're not going to climb a tower past this point of wind, for example. In a dealership, what are the things you won't? So if you were starting your dealership tomorrow, we wrote you a check and said, this is your dealership. What are the things that you wouldn't compromise? And then those are the things that you have to be able to articulate, and everyone in your care has to be able to understand. By the way, you will get compromised on it. What are your boundaries? How far will you go? Yeah, I think it's always interesting. So the whole car, I know you guys have your stories. Katie had our stories. My interesting story about car dealership is, I'd always go in, right, and someone would say to me, hey, you're here to buy a car? Yeah, I am. And then I get the question, and maybe it's a Jersey thing, I don't know, maybe it's not around the country, but people would say to me, well, are you going to buy a car today? Can you buy a car? Does it sound familiar, right? Can you buy a car? And I would say to them, well, can you sell me a car? And I'd be like, excuse me? I go, can you sell me the car? Well, yeah, what are you talking about? I go, look, see that car over there? 17.5, I'll give you 16. Oh, I got to go get my manager. I said, I'll tell you what, go find me the guy that can sell me the car. Because I'm not going to get my parents. I don't need my dad here. So go get the person so your authority has to equal your responsibility as a salesperson, right? What are the boundaries? Why do I always have to go get the guy that has to come and help me out? I don't need him. I didn't bring anybody but me. I walked in. You said to me, can I buy a car? I said yes. I said, can you buy a car? You said yes. I said 17.5, 16. You said, I got to get my boss. Okay. Then he comes. He goes to the whole store. He tells me the song and dance. I say to him, all right, 16 to 16.2. All right, let me go get the general manager. Who's the person that could sell me the car, please? Just get me there. Right? So what are the boundaries? It's the same in all businesses, by the way. Right? Account executive goes in because they're order takers. Somebody calls you up. Hey, I need next day air service. I need 25% off. Well, you're an order taker then. It's happening in Medicare. It's happening in medical now. My cousin Joey, hey, come on, I gotta have a cousin named Joey, right? My cousin Joey, the doc. People walk in all the time, right? Hey, my son, my daughter needs amoxicillin, got an ear infection, can you write me a prescription? He's an order taker then if he just writes a prescription. No, he doesn't say, can you come in? Can I check them? Can I at least look at it? No, I know what it is, right? You become an order taker if you're not careful. It's what happens when people don't understand the boundaries in sales. So what does my authority and my responsibility equal? How about the question? I always ask this question, whether it's in a huge supply chain, what keeps you up awake at night? If somebody would have asked Katie, what keeps you up awake at night, you would have known what she's there for, and you would have been solving for that. Sometimes you'll find out in business what keeps her up awake at night in a more traditional setting is, my boss has this, this, and this. You think it's this, they think it's that. Always ask the question, what keeps you up awake at night? If you solve that question, you're gonna win the business. You're gonna get to know a little bit more about the person who's purchasing it, but more importantly, your mind now starts to think a little bit about what's the unique solution that I'm going to give or build for them that makes them walk out feeling like it's unique. How about the last one? What are the metrics you're going to hold yourself accountable for? One of the last ones, right? So in your dealership, does everybody know what they're being held accountable for? Now, I understand in sales, it's all about being a hunter. I understand that we're trying to hit sales incentive, got all that, right? It's in every organization, whether you're selling, pick an organization that has salespeople, it's the same. The question is, what are the key metrics though? So you're driving down, you're driving down the highway. You have a dashboard in front of you. That dashboard is meant to do what? Tell you whether you're doing good on gas, how's the engine temperature. It gives you a look, an understanding of, am I going in the right direction? So that's a balanced scorecard. Well, what is the balanced scorecard you have for your salespeople? What are the metrics on a daily, weekly basis that you look at so that at the end of the month, you're not sitting there saying, okay, you know what, we're 2 cars off, now we got to give the store away. Or this account executive or this sales professional is far off. So what are the metrics that you look at? What are the metrics that you have on your dashboard that makes a difference and gives you the leading indicators of, am I doing well? Because the one thing you don't want to do, we talk a lot about retain and attract top people, is you don't want people to get so far off plan that you can't help them back on plan. That's when they leave as well. So, you brought up a good point before, people leave because of their boss. People also leave. You ever hear that when someone says, I'm leaving because I don't get paid enough? Well, when we hired you for the job, you thought the pay was okay. What they really mean by that is, you don't pay me enough to do the things you're asking me to do. So when I came here, I thought the pay was good. But now that I see the chaos and I see the way I'm treated, or I see the fact that things aren't going the way I thought they were going to go, or the way I'm being communicated to, you don't pay me enough to do the things that you're asking me to do. So what are the key metrics that you for yourself and the people in your care to know whether they're on plan or whether they're starting to fade off plan, and that's your chance to get them back? And then last but not least, what does good look like? So what does good look like in the best dealership in the world? What does good look like for the best sales professional in the automotive industry? What does that look like? It's important to know that because that's what you're working towards. So that's the customer side of it. And then later, as I said, if we had some more time, we would build out people, we would build out ownership. So when it comes to people, this is what I believe you should aspire for and what your people should aspire for. You want the best, the brightest, the most informed, and best educated in the industry. Right? People in your dealership, people in your care should want to be the best, the brightest, the most informed, and best educated. And what you should do is inspire them to do that. So think about it, to be the best, the brightest. Do you have training workshops for them? Do you tell them, hey, look, I just read this latest periodical in the automotive industry, and this is where the automotive industry is going. This is the latest technology that's coming out. Inspire them to want to be the best, the brightest, the most informed, the best educated people in the industry. Because I think one of you said it yesterday, everybody's selling cars. I think it was a Kia example. Everybody's selling Kias. The difference is the people. Right? So do you have that? And of course, this last is when you make your decisions, you make them like an owner. So just let me give you a couple quick examples to think about. The first 100 years, and I know Frank said it yesterday, I talked about the industry change in 2008. I think we talked about it a few minutes ago, how industry is changing. You know, the world is just changing completely. So let me give you two quick examples of this. So the first 100 years, I want you to think about this. The first 100 years, and you saw it in 2008, doesn't guarantee the second 100 years because there were companies with well over 100 years in the industry that aren't around for the second 100. Let me give you two quick examples. I think it was about the 108-year anniversary. The CEO of Woolworths was asked, why did you close all the Woolworths? And he said, well, nobody buys from a five and dime anymore. I'd ask you, can you put another Dollar Tree? Couldn't you have another under five? Right? Could you have another Dollar General? No, I don't think that it was because there was no need for a five and dime. They lost their way. Think about that. Now, does anybody know who Woolworths is today? Actually, Woolworths isn't Woolworths the way you know it, but there is the remnants of Woolworths today. Anybody know who Woolworths is today? Foot Locker. They bought Kenny shoes, went into shoes, and then now they're Foot Locker. Think about that. So how about this example? 1993, CEO is asked, why don't you have a Sears catalog anymore? Nobody buys your catalogs anymore. Well, can you get another Pottery Barn catalog in your mail? Now, yesterday they just announced they finally won Chapter 11. Does anybody know who Sears is today? Not the exact store, not the exact company the way Woolworths morphed, but you know who Sears is today? Nope. Anybody know who Sears is today? Yeah, they just filed today. It's Amazon. You could buy anything you wanted in a Sears catalog. Craftsman mower, a shed, right? Can't you do that on Amazon today? Just digital. Think about that. Who almost missed the digital world? Anybody know? Walmart. Think about that. So the first 100 years doesn't guarantee you the second 100 years. And so as you're thinking about your industry and you're thinking about the speakers that were before you yesterday, this morning, and later on, the real question is, am I going to understand where this industry is going? Got a lot of friends here from Canada, Saskatchewan, Toronto. So here, they did an analysis of the greatest hockey player of all time, Wayne Gretzky. And they realized he didn't have the hardest shot, that wasn't the fastest skater, didn't have the best hands. And when they asked Wayne Gretzky, what makes you the greatest hockey player of all time? He simply said, I go to where the puck is going, where the puck has been. Do you ever think about that for a second? The greatest hockey player of all time is in front of the net getting a tap in. And we would sit around and say, what? Who could lose Wayne Gretzky? Who lost track of Wayne Gretzky? You know why? While they're in the corner digging out the puck, where was Wayne Gretzky? In front of the net. That's where the puck was going. In business, do you go to where the puck is going, or are you just trying to catch up to where it's been? You have to start to think about that. In our industry, are we going to go to where the puck's going? Are we going to recognize the signs? Are we going to change the way we do business? Or are we just going to go where the puck is going? That doesn't mean you're not working hard, right? The person in the corner digging it out is working hard, getting bounced around, probably getting, probably sore at the end of the game, but they're not scoring. It doesn't mean you're not working hard. That doesn't mean you're putting the puck in the net, though. Right? Hard work is a great thing. Hard work without enthusiasm is what? Hard work gets old. And hard work without success really is not a very fun thing to do. So as I leave you, I want you to think about your personal strategy and your business strategy, and it starts with this. Who am I? What do I stand for? and what won't I compromise? Who am I? So who am I? Am I a business person or am I a car salesman? Now, I think you're a business person that happens to sell cars. So don't damn yourself to just being a car salesperson. Now, you may do that. You may do that for the rest of your life. Someone says to me, well, I went to college to be a high school history teacher and a baseball coach. Was I a UPS executive? No, I was a teacher. I just, where I taught was just different. It just wasn't in the traditional classroom. It was in a business setting. So that's how I view, who am I? I believe I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, I'm a person who helps people connect dots. I just happen to do it inside a company like UPS. What do I stand for? Well, for me, my dad always told me, it's what you do when no one's watching that counts. And I would always say to him, but Dad, that's the best part, nobody's watching. And he said to me, there's always two people watching, the man upstairs and the person in the mirror. So you have to understand who are you and what do you stand for? And then the other thing he told me was funny. When I got my job at UPS, he told me two things. He said, A, learn your job and learn some more. And then whatever they ask you to do, say yes and thank you. So someone had asked me before, why'd you move so much? Every time I said, I got a new job for you. All I could hear was my dad saying, just say yes and thank you. And the lesson I learned from a leadership point of view was I wasn't always ready for those jobs. And I want you to think about you as you start new responsibilities and the people who you manage as you start new responsibilities. I wasn't ready for all those assignments. Thank God UPS believed in me before I was ready to believe in myself. But what it taught me was as a leader, you have to believe in your people until they're ready to believe in themselves. You bridge that confidence knowledge gap until it's that kind of break-even point. And then when there's that break-even point, then what happens? Then you let them fly. Then you don't overmanage them at that point. Right? So that's the evolution, right? But you're going to have to believe in your people until they're ready to believe in themselves. So I'll leave you with a final story since I have the book back there if you're interested. If not, I clearly understand. I was just hoping not to bring them all back to New Jersey with me. So a friend of mine has got a business, right? And it's doing really well. It's a restaurant business. And he's just knocking it out of the park. So he decides he needs a bigger restaurant. So he's all excited. So we decide to send him flowers for his new business. Right? And so he gets the flowers, he's all excited, it's opening day for his business, and he opens up the flowers and he reads the card, and the card says, rest in peace. And he's like, oh my God, rest in peace? They got the wrong person, number one, and I think this is bad luck, if nothing else. So he calls the florist up and says, hey, you sent me the flowers. And he says, oh yeah, your friend sent it to you for your new business. He said, but you sent me the wrong flowers. The card says, rest in peace. Oh, she says, but look at it this way. There's someone at a funeral that has a card that says, welcome to your new location. It's all how you look at it, right? Take care, everybody. Be safe, and thank you very much.